All right. Feeney Talks with Friends, episode 124. I'm really excited about our guest today. What's up, Steve?
How are you, Eric? Great to be here.
This is amazing. Feeney Talks with Friends. I use this podcast, Feeney Talks with Friends, and I talk to wonderful people in the community that are doing great things. And Steve, I mean, how fitting is it? It's episode 124, and you represent...
241. You got it.
2 for 1. Life's too short for one sport. That's an amazing slogan. I mean, where can we start? We're so excited. How did that motto get started? Where's 2 for 1?
Well, I've told this story many times, and actually probably this is one of the closest places to where it happened, where I got to tell it. So you might know I was working as a counselor and a coach right here at Hall High School, not too far from where we're doing this. And my wife was athletic director at the Watkinson School, and we had a young family, and I was coaching different sports over at Hall. And at the time I was coaching soccer, and my oldest daughter, who's now going to be 29, was trying out for the local travel soccer team as an 8-year-old. And, we just didn't want our kid to be bad at sports, right? We just because we knew how life-giving it was to us, so we'd hope she'd make the team. Well, we get the call after the tryout. Guy says to us, "Your daughter's our number one prospect." And I was like, dude, she's 8 years old. She's nobody's prospect. But, still, it still made you feel good that your kid was good, right? And so it starts to go on about the Brazilian style of play, that she's going to fit into a system and the whole thing. And after about 20 minutes or so of him talking about the commitment and all this, I said, well, look, Alana's showing some interest in playing lacrosse because my wife played lacrosse in college. And I've always thought of soccer as a fall sport, but I have known that there was some commitment in the spring and some. Right as soon as I say that, he goes radio silent, kind of gets angry and says, "Hold on a second." And then literally, as if he's talking to the guy in the back of the car dealership, he comes back on 20 awkward seconds later and says, "We're no longer interested in your daughter." Simply because as an 8-year-old, she was showing some interest in another sport. So I said some things that I probably shouldn't say on a friend's podcast to this guy, and I said to my wife that night, we're in a position to do something about this. We could shout from the mountaintops, or we could actually think about bringing back the 3-season athlete, the whole thing. And we came up with the tagline that night, "Life's too short for just one sport." And we actually started as a summer camp, mom and pop camp, just for girls. We had 3 daughters. We had a bunch of friends who had daughters. We knew we could get them to at least send their kids. Got 64 girls the first summer over at Watkinson, and moms and dads showed up holding the hands of their sons and said, "Will you do this for boys?" And to be honest, I was coaching girls. We had daughters. I didn't know if we could get boys. And I said, if you send them, we'll run the camp for boys. So we did single gender our first 2 years, believe it or not. 3 years, actually, we did, because then we did alternating weeks of girls and boys. But we outgrew Watkinson. The facility just, when it rained, there was no turf, and we were eating up the grass. So luckily, Kingswood Oxford took us over there. And in 2014 it was, maybe 5 years after we started, the Aspen Institute in Washington, D.C. contacted us and said, "Would you mind if we recognized you as one of 8 model programs in the United States as this?" They had this seminal report called Project Play. It was reimagining youth sports. So the 8 organizations were organizations like Special Olympics, Pop Warner, the Tony Hawk Foundation, USA Hockey, and then little old 241 Sports. And it was crazy. So I go and, Billie Jean King is there, and Michelle Obama's there, and then there's me. I was like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. But there was no one doing it anymore, right? There was, it didn't seem like a novel idea to us, but we were just kids playing more than one sport, not specializing. That's not brilliant. It's just what we believe in. Yeah. But no one was programming for it, so it elevated us to the national stage. And I know I'm going on about this, but I sometimes I look back and I'm like, wow, how did this happen, man? Given the scope of what we're doing right now.
I know, that's amazing. And to grow, they always say Coca-Cola was once sold for a quarter, and here now it's global, and now you're all over. You're international now too.
Yeah.
So you have, again, 2 for 1. We're with Steve Boyle. He's the executive director and co-founder of 2 for 1. Got my swag, how do you like it? 2 for 1. I'm honored too, because as you can see, there's some partners on the back.
There he is.
There's in the bottom.
Friends of Feeney.
Let's go.
Yeah, all right.
Very excited to have you. This is a long time coming. I know we've talked about getting you on the podcast, and it worked out. I wish I could say I set it up that it's 124, but
I'm just glad we didn't wait for 241 to do it. So
it's a while away.
Yeah.
So it says here that your camp started in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going on 16. What's that, right? 16 years.
This will be our 17th
17
summer.
years.
Yeah.
It goes from ages 5 to 14.
Mm.
You're at 21,000 kids, 16 states, and 5 countries.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are the 5 countries?
So we have direct programming going on in Canada. We've been in outside of Vancouver for coming on 6 years, and then we do programming in Zambia, Africa, and Kenya. And so we've consulted to Australia and India, Mexico. And while it's not a country, we actually are right now in conversations with bringing program into Puerto Rico as well. And so we're excited about that. We did a lot during COVID, we became sort of a program that different countries reached out to because we were one of the first to do real programming with kids during the pandemic. And part of the way we convinced some of the schools was like, you got to let us try it because you're going to try to open school in the fall so we can do some trial and error stuff. And we really were able to, based on best practice and science, put together really good quality programming. And that was crazy, actually, just when I look back at that not being too long ago. As far as states go, we've got really good footprint in Colorado. We've been in Boulder in the Denver area for a long time. Charlotte, North Carolina. We're in Englewood, New Jersey, as well as Englewood, Colorado. We've during pandemic we did programming in Indianapolis, Indiana. Our model is one where we always quip that kids are kids no matter where you go, right? Regardless of their zip code. And we're trying to be more strategic about where we go. It used to be we would chase the tail a little bit. Someone said, hey, come to Colorado. We'd be like, okay, we'll come. That sounds cool. But now, with our board and with our growth, we're able to be more intentional about those places where we're trying to do programming. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, and Africa. So how does that work? How do you reach out to someone, or does someone reach out to you? I'm so interested on how that worked out.
Well, I'm so grateful that you get these sort of random spam emails, right? And you can usually tell by the way they're formatted or how, like, Dear Sir or something like that. But I got one, and that was it said physical literacy in Kenya. And I looked up the website of the gentleman who had sent the email, and they were a legit, but new, what they call NGO, not non-governmental organization. It's the equivalent of being a nonprofit in Africa. And so I set up a Zoom call with him. And when we started, we were an LLC. We were a small business, if you will. It was kind of a side thing that my wife and I had been doing all these years. We looked and smelled a lot like a nonprofit because we were given scholarships and we were clearly mission-driven, but it was just the way we had set it up. And we'd always wanted to go nonprofit. And so in talking with this organization called Wellness for Greatness, we actually, before COVID, we were looking to figure out a way if we could start a nonprofit arm for them, and then we would go over and do training and let them know sort of the 241 way. And then COVID came, and conversations died on the vine a little bit, and then we rebooted. And then Omicron came, and Omicron started in South Africa, and it worked its way up the continent. And so then during that time in 2021, we actually did decide to go nonprofit. So we applied for our 501c3 in December of 21. We were approved in August of 22. And that has absolutely more than quadrupled our reach. It's just because we now still live in the world where we are doing anti-specialization in places like West Hartford and Denver and, our traditional what we call parent pay camps. We now are probably have, multiplied times 10 done grant-funded programming. So we're programming year-round in places like Hartford and New Britain in underserved communities. And 2 of those underserved communities are Nairobi, Kenya, and Kitwe, Zambia.
Okay.
So last year, Carrie and I went over, we did training. We have since hired someone to sort of lead our projects in Africa. And we're down the path with some organizations that we could really scale there because the need is just, as you can imagine, just so great.
I know it says that you went in January 2024, and they predominantly played soccer, but you introduced ultimate frisbee and some other fun sports. So that's so cool. Yeah, 2 for 1, any sport. No, it's great. I'm going to shout out some sponsors.
Please, yeah.
So we're here at Maximum Beverage. Thank you, Maximum Beverage. The Whitneys are excellent sponsors. Thank you, Direct Line Media, Stefania and Dave. Thank you, Keating Agency Insurance, Brook Golf Law Group. I'm already forgetting. Keating Agency, Luna Pizza, The Fix IV, Float 41, People's Bank, and Parkville Market. Thank you so much for your sponsorship. It truly means the world. We're here. And West Hartford Lock. So West Hartford Lock, Eric and Yuri. But with West Hartford Lock, what are 3 keys that make you great at being the executive director at 2 for 1?
Wow. I thought you'd prompt me with all the hard questions, but 3 keys. So I think what's interesting about even my team, but I lend to that team, is that we have just a wealth of experience, and we do programming in communities, we do them in schools, right? And so I've spent my whole life around kids and working with institutions and understanding what are those things that are challenges for schools and communities, and what are those things that can be a value add. And so whenever we go into places, we're always trying to find what's the win-win situation for the kids, but also understanding it's educators who are delivering it, or there's community-based organizations and there's challenges with that. So I think our experience around understanding governmental agencies, understanding public schools, private schools, how schools run, and then what the needs are for families as well. I think that's important. I come from a family of 8. I'm the oldest middle child, as I like to say, because I got there's 3 older brothers, and then there's 2 girls and a boy that are younger than me, and my brother David are the middle ones, and I'm the oldest of the middle ones. But I'm kind of the classic middle child, right? Like I worry about everybody, and so I want people to be happy, and in my family people just sort of knew it. And in fact, we lost my mom 2 years ago this week, and the family asked me to do the eulogy, right? So I think I come from a place of empathy and worrying about others, and I think that's a value in a nonprofit space, right? To really want to be concerned for what's happening in other people's lives and making sure that they're happy. 3 keys. It's funny. I was a guidance counselor for a long time, and I would often say, when you get an interview, one of the things people would ask is, in an interview, what's your greatest strength? And I'd say my competitiveness. And I was an athlete, right? And I had all these brothers, and so we fought. And then, what's your greatest weakness? My competitiveness, right? Because, and in fact, in the work we do now around social emotional learning, it's really how to manage your anger, how to channel it, and competitiveness and anger can be 2 separate things. So I really think that, I'm driven, but I think I'm driven in a mission-driven way, that it's not for, owning a certain house or having things. It's really for leaving a legacy. I'm approaching my 60s, and, I realize we're onto something here in terms of being able to change lives and change communities and change cultures. And so I think my competitiveness helps in that case, because I'm driven to make sure we get good stuff done before I'm gone, and that there's systems in place, so.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
So I've heard empathy, knowledge, and drive and motivation, competitiveness. I like it.
Yeah.
So middle child, I'm the oldest child, so what's that say? I don't know. I thought that's why I went into teaching, because I don't know, it's so funny. The middle child, everyone has a drive and a way, a story.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah.
No, that was great. Your 3 keys were amazing. That was so good.
Thanks,
2
man.
for 1, executive director and co-founder. Who are you co-founding it with?
My wife, Carrie. Yeah, so Carrie grew up in Baltimore. Her mom, actually, believe it or not, was Miss New Jersey in the Miss America pageant, a brilliant woman. And her dad, I wrote a blog once, called him the original 2-4-1er. He was a Golden Gloves boxer. He was a college basketball, football, and baseball player.
Jeez.
He was a teaching tennis pro. Just an amazing guy, but he was a 44-year teacher coach at the Gilman School in Baltimore. People might know Gilman because there's a recent alum there named Luigi, but we won't go into that right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he was Senator Paul Sarbanes' longest standing advisor. So Paul Sarbanes-Oxley Act, people sometimes will know that. So he was like, and he was a good friend to me, and I'm not just saying that because of this podcast. Like, I really miss him. He's been gone almost a decade. So one of the things we're doing this year is we're starting a pilot in Washington, D.C., but we're also going to look to do a program in Kerry's dad's name in Baltimore, because that's where he's from. He was known as a civil rights activist, helped integrate a lot of schools down there. So we're going to try to bring our model to Baltimore and raise funds in his honor to get programs starting down there. So so Kerry grew up in a sports world. Her are you a New York Giants fan by any chance? So her godfather's a guy named George Young, who hired Bill Parcells. He was the general manager of the Giants. So he was the general manager. He wound up leaving the Giants and headed NFL Europe before they were doing all that to get it started. Yeah, wow. But he passed away around 15 years ago or so. But she's just, our first date was 50-yard line of the New York Giants versus the Minnesota Vikings. So yeah,
can't beat it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
go Giants. Kerry, go Giants. Man, yeah, so your father-in-law was an amazing human being. Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
Boxing, basketball, baseball, football.
Oh, my God. And so Kerry always joked that she couldn't date anybody from, because she was in their all-girls school across the street from where he was, and no one wanted to date Coach Slaughter's daughter because he was old school, tough guy, you know what I mean? But he used to call me a snag, and I go, man, what's a snag? He goes, you're a sensitive new age guy.
Oh, okay. I like that.
No,
there's
great.
names for that now, but
yeah,
right.
All right. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, he was a good man, and we're excited to actually do something in his honor.
That's great to pay tribute to him and honor his legacy. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I think he motivated us to do this, right? I mean, he was stoked when we started it, right? Because he was sort of like, oh, that's great. But he was frustrated as well, like that it was a need. Because for him, especially, the era he grew up in, it's just the idea of not playing more than one sport was crazy. He had a great line. We walked into FSA one day, and because our kids were doing the travel soccer thing, and he walks in, he looks around, kind of does a slow roll. He goes, "You know what this place is?" He goes, "This is a shrine to over-involved parents." And I thought,
very fitting.
But again, you think about it, a guy from that generation that to have an indoor sports arena to play an outdoor game, and it's packed with parents on the sideline screaming at coaches and cheering their kids on or yelling directions. It was, he used to call that a park, right? Yeah. And, regardless of the time of year. So anyway, he had a lot of influence on us as well. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you get to honor him. That's great.
Yeah.
And also, congratulations. I mean, it's a year late, but you received the Catalyst Endowment Fund?
Actually, no, that was this year.
Oh, that was this year?
Yeah, we applied in the fall, and we...
Oh, November.
Yeah,
so this year.
Yeah, we
gotcha.
received, but it's a year grant. So,
Gotcha.
So the Catalyst Endowment Fund is part of the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. That's the new thing for us, too, right, is that we had been lifelong educators, so this idea of writing grants and finding what are the sources of funds and who would be interested in being a donor. So we have to constantly be on the lookout and also work really hard to put forth good grants because they're competitive and the qualifications for them. You got to make sure like you're doing things that are budgets and the whole piece. And so this year's grant fit the theme. Each year that Catalyst group has a different theme. And it just fit us because it was really around access to youth sports and developing leadership through youth sports. And we do that in Hartford right now. And with a lot of COVID money, ESSER money, with people would call it stimulus money, what have you. those funds have all dried up in the last 12 months, and so we're becoming more and more dependent on grants and corporate donorship and individual donorship. And so we applied for $69,000. They awarded us $64,000, so it's going to allow us to start a brand new full-year program at the Sand School in Hartford. It's going to allow us to continue at West Middle School. These are both community schools. Like when I say community schools, they're like, in Hartford, you've got magnet schools, you got charter schools, you got neighborhood schools, or community schools. Community schools are where kids walk. Like there's very few buses, and so and they tend to be poorer schools and with less resources. So we're so psyched to have gotten that. The other thing it's going to allow us to do is increase our partnership with the Center for Healing and Justice Through Sports. They're a national organization that does coach training through a trauma-informed lens. And so because we do so much work around social-emotional learning in sports, but we're programmers and they're trainers, they become a great partner of ours. So they're going to come into Hartford and do 2 live trainings for anybody in the Hartford community that wants to come. We're already partnering with Active City Hartford, with CREC coaches, with Hartford Public School coaches, with UConn. We're hoping to get 150 people to come do this training. Free for everybody, all done with this funding. But the other thing that's really cool is that they're going to help us digitize our training platform. So like in the next week, I'm training people in Norwich, Hartford, East Hartford, Washington, D.C., Africa, all delivering our program. We can't do live training as much as we'd like to do. So they're going to help us digitize our online modules in a way that we're not going to lose efficacy in terms of it. There's nothing better than in-person training, but as we scale, there's a reality to it. Center for Healing and Justice Through Sports is partnered. In fact, they're at Nike headquarters in Oregon right now. They're backed by Nike. They're just so good at what they do. I mean, you and I are lifelong teachers, right? We all know there's like good professional development and there's like, why am I sitting here, professional development? They do the best professional development I've ever been a part of. I'm not just saying that. Like we did one in Hartford last year. They came up and it was 5:30 to 8 p.m. on a school night. Teachers and coaches in there. Some of them were told they had to go. And the first people were in the back like, all right, when's this going to be over? It was 8:30 for a PD that ended at 8 o'clock. No one had checked their watch. And people were literally angry when they saw what time it was because we had to end. We had to get out of the school we were in. It was just that good. It was that engaging. So yeah,
that says a lot.
Yeah, we're super stoked. And the fact that we got some funding through this grant is huge for us. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
What's T.O.P. stand for?
T.O.P. Thinking on Purpose. All right. So crazy story on how this one started, right? So I'm in my mid 30s teaching and coaching over at Hall. I got a young family, and I actually was involved in the rescue of in a faculty meeting. A colleague had a heart attack. She flatlined, and I and another colleague did CPR in such a way that the defibrillator was able to do what it's supposed to do. And so they say that 3% of all people who flatline make it to the hospital alive. And of those 3%, only 3% don't have any brain damage. Well, this colleague called me 3 days later to say, I'm okay. Jeez. And so I didn't know it at the time, but I then developed, I had a PTSD response to that, not realizing, and I wound up in the hospital myself 4 times. The first 3 times they checked me for heart issues and the whole thing because I was having chest pains and racing thing, and the 4th time they said, you got to go to the psychiatrist. So little did I know I was having panic attacks. I'd always suffered from anxiety, but I didn't know that, and I managed it through emotion and humor and just ways that young guys do, right? Wow. And so it was really humbling for the counselor to have to go see a counselor. And but it literally is changing thousands of lives around the world because that happened. So I had to learn what's called cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's basically allowing yourself to not let the anxiety creep in, to like use your brain to tell yourself this is what's happening and use strategies to distract yourself from it and to prevent it from consuming you. So T.O.P. came from that. So we created this sort of a marriage of different social emotional learning platforms that are out there. A lot of people are familiar with Ruler, Second Step, and we created this one to have a sports sort of focus on it, but it used, so the strategy that I learned that helped me the most was when I felt the anxiety coming on, would be able to quickly do some breathing that would take me to my favorite place in the world, which was up in Maine on the beach with my family. And so I had started to talk to people about wanting to do this with the kids I was working with and bringing it into the school. And so a lot of people like, well, that's mindfulness, or that, mindfulness brainwashing. And I'm like, no, it's not. So someone said, you know what they call it in the Army? They call it strategic thinking. And I thought to myself, all right, that's kind of cool, because then anybody that's like anti, the mindfulness or whatever. So I came up with the idea of T.O.P, thinking on purpose, right? There's an intentionality of it. John Kabat-Zinn's definition of mindfulness literally says thinking on purpose in there. So we got T.O.P self, and so what we do is we help kids identify the emotions they're feeling. No judgment, right? You're angry. You're anxious, you're whatever. And I always just lead with kids that I get anxious a lot, I get nervous a lot, and that helps calm them down. And then we just give them strategies for how to go from how they're feeling to how they want to feel. And there's an emoji-based image that we have, it's up on our website. We have that poster hanging in all of the schools that we do. So we start all of our programs just normalizing social emotional learning, right? That it's okay to get angry. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to feel sad. It's just not okay to live in that space if you can do something about it. And the reason it works so well is because sports are the most authentic classroom for teaching SEL, right? Kids get nervous. They get upset. Right? And they get upset about different things. He fouled me. He pushed me. She's not passing the ball to me. My mom and dad didn't come to the game and they told me they were going to. There's all different emotions that happen. Whereas a school counselor, I used to go in and have to do a lecture on social emotional learning. So I'd be like, all right, make pretend you're angry right now. That's not helpful, right? And then you leave and they don't forget what you taught them. In our program, they really are angry. They really are upset. And then they can use the strategies that we used to start the lesson. And it's every day, right? We start every day with it. But it's 2 or 3 minutes. We normalize it. We help them understand, superheroes have anxiety. NBA stars, why do they take a deep breath before they take a foul shot? Why does the kicker try to calm themselves down? Why do people get hyped up before a game? So that they can understand the value of controlling and regulating their emotions.
Yeah.
So
you don't want to get a technical foul or a yellow card.
Yeah, or yell at your coach because he pulled you out of the game. Yeah.
No, it's so interesting. Yeah, and the breathing is very helpful. Mindfulness, breathing.
Yeah, as a teacher, you deal with, there's so many teachers now, especially coming out of COVID, that say so much of their work is really on self-regulation and classroom management and behavior management. And the PE teachers that we've been doing this program with, it's a before-after school program. They ask us, can I use this during my PE or health class? We're like, absolutely. And every single one of them does it. Because while they have other things they've been trained in, they said nothing works like this. Because it's just quick,
That's awesome. Thinking on purpose. T.O.P.
Yeah, so we just presented at the Castle Conference in Chicago. So Dr. Julie Goldstein, she was principal of Breakthrough Magnet South, which was #1 magnet school in America in 2015. She then was principal at Hartford Magnet Trinity College Academy. Well, we poached her. She's now our chief program officer. We actually just changed her title to Director of Strategic Initiatives. She got her doctorate studying T.O.P self. And so it's now research-backed, evidence-based, and we were the only youth sport development program at Castle in Chicago this year presenting our research. And we've got all the schools we're going to now, that piece is obviously a big sell for them because, social emotional learning is something, it's not a buzzword. They realize how important it really is. So
we do Second Step in school, too.
Yeah. It's similar. It's just, it's... in my opinion, because I know all of them, it's just a little more authentic. especially for our setting, and the goal is to get to home base. So there's a sports sort of analogy with that. So we have emojis on the outside, and then it's like, how do you get to home base? And people know home base and hide and seek. It's a safe place. In baseball or kickball, you're trying to score there.
Yep.
So you're always trying to get to home base. That's the strategy we use.
Wow. What's P.L.P.?
P.L.Ps. All right, so that's another kind of cool.
We got the acronyms going.
Yeah, cool thing we added into our program that just I had always known as a teacher and a coach that if I could get my players to teach a skill that I had taught them, they would own it more. Right. The other thing is we were trying to figure out a creative way to get more kids involved in our programs. So P.L.P. stands for Physical Literacy Pals. So when we got that Aspen Institute recognition, we also helped write the United States white paper on physical literacy. So we're contributors to that. And people have seen myself and our organization as sort of experts in this concept of physical literacy. Physical literacy definition in the U.S. is ability, confidence, and desire to be active for life. A lot of sports, it's about skills, it's about the ability piece. But I was always drawn to the affective pieces of confidence and motivation, or confidence and desire, to want to participate. Like, how do you make that happen? So it's kind of a kitschy name, right? P.L.P, Physical Literacy Pal. Think of them like reading buddies, right? School like Walcott, maybe your oldest kids go down and read to the kindergartners. In this case, we train the oldest kids in the school. So in a K-5 school, we train the fifth graders to be these P.L.Ps. We interview them. They sign a contract. They have to commit to coming, and what they do is they're either, sometimes we call them like the assistant coaches to the adult that's working, or like the captains. And so their jobs are essentially to help organize the games, welcome the kids upon arrival, sometimes lead the top self social emotional learning piece. But what happens is, because a lot of times kids don't know how to organize themselves anymore, right? You get 10 kids to say, okay, split sides and play a game. And they'll look at you like you got two heads, right? Because they don't know how to pick teams, or at least do it fairly. So by giving them these responsibilities, what's happening is two things. At recess, they're going outside and they're organizing themselves for the first time. And these stories are crazy. Teachers are telling us that, Eric, who's a trained P.L.P., sees Steve starting to lose his cool, who hasn't been in the program. Eric starts to teach Steve top self. This is how you calm down. Yeah. You don't want to fight that kid. You don't want to get kicked out of whatever. And so we're seeing now, like, giving these kids this leadership role, it's a big deal. It's impacting school culture, and they're just better citizens in the school.
Nothing works better than giving a kid a leadership role.
100%.
Oh, they love that.
And we don't always give it to those kids that are like the rock star kids that are already getting all the accolades. Like, what we try to do is we say to the people, the administrators or the fifth grade team, who are those kids who are on the cusp, right? That we often say at risk, but who's at promise, right? Who's that kid that that given the right leadership, it's going to change their life. And it's really like it's a cool component of the program.
It's amazing. You got a lot of good stuff going on at 241. Where can someone reach out to you if they want to work or apply or
so
have their kid join?
Myself and Carrie used to receive all that. So our website is 241play.org. When we went from 241 Sports LLC, mom and pop camp, to sort of global nonprofit, we went to 241 Care, but people were getting confused. So now we say we put play back into sports. So our easy to remember 241play.org. There's some those questionnaires on there, like if you want more info. Usually we let our camp directors on site do the hiring of staff for particular sites, and then when we get grants and we just open things up, we send it out to the general population. Jessica from our team handles our staffing for all of our parent pay camps, and then Carrie usually will do our grant funded programs in terms of hiring for that.
Nice. And it's the mailing address 1424 Park Street?
That's right.
Suite 114?
Yes, you get that on our website. So we have an office space down there. And, it's our headquarters, right? It's a Hartford address. But, truth be told, we're programmers. We're not spending much time in an office. we're out at schools and in the community all the time.
What do you have for suggestions on someone that's or a nonprofit that's looking to start writing grants, like the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving? Do you have a suggestion for?
I do. What drives me crazy sometimes is how guarded people can be about not wanting to share stuff. We have found that, and you and I are a perfect example. Like, partnering is where the magic happens, right? We don't do what you do, and you don't do what we do, and so it's finding those people that are like-minded that you can collaborate with. Now, would we struggle to find a grant we could write for together? Probably, right? But that doesn't mean I can't share with you, like, hey, here's a good grant I heard about that I think you did. But Center for Healing and Justice Through Sports, that's a perfect example. Like, there are people that want to compete with them as opposed to join with them. That's crazy to me. Like, we're serving kids. And so a lot of grantors love it when nonprofits collaborate, right? Because they know they're more powerful together and the dollars can get more spread out. So that would be my first piece of advice, is to find like-minded partners that you can help fill gaps. Like, we're partners with Active City Hartford. That's been a huge partnership for us. Some people could see us as essentially competitors, but we don't look at things that way. Like, we're not fighting over kids, right? If you're doing good work and we're doing good work, there's plenty of kids to go around. And so that's the mentality we've always had. So I'd lead with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And speaking of partnership and collaboration, what happened on May 11th, 2024?
The Blue Jean Mile. So that was our second annual Blue Jean Mile. And so the story behind that is most people in West Hartford at least know Stephanie Blosey, who was the owner of Fleet Feet for many years. She and I shared in common Jason Hannigan, who was a guy who grew up in town that everybody loved, personal trainer, but struggled his whole life with mental health issues. We were both friends with Mary Painter, his wife, and Jason used to play basketball with me. And I can't say like we were like the best of friends, but it was one of those guys that once you met him, you were his guy, right? No matter what. So I'd see him in the Whole Foods, and hey, I get your newsletters about 241. I love what you're doing. I'm always pumped about it. Well, sadly, he died by suicide shortly after COVID. And for those who knew him well, it was devastating, but not a shock, right? Because they knew what his struggles were. And because we were doing so much work around mental health, but really we're in the prevention space, right? We're not in the intervention space. And what I mean by that is the work we do with Top Self is to get kids to never get to that point, right? That they have strategies to either ask for help or to self-regulate to a point where they would never get to that, situation. And so Stephanie said, you know what? This guy, Johnny Gregoric, lost his brother to suicide. Well, Johnny Gregoric is a world-class runner. And what he did to remember his brother is he came up with this idea, the Blue Jean Mile. And so what it is you run a mile in blue jeans. And the reason he chose that is he said that was the closest equivalent he could get to describing his brother's pain, right? That his mental health pain was like trying to run a mile in blue jeans. Just just sweating in your, it's like scratching you and the whole, like, why would you do it? But until you've experienced something like that, as a lifelong anxiety sufferer, it's hard to tell people what it feels like, right? And so we heard about this and we thought, we should do a local Blue Jean Mile. And we approached Mary, Jason's wife, and she jumped on board. And the first year we raised $10,000. And it was a really good feeling community event. It was a great place for everybody to come together. And then the next year we tried to grow it. And that's when we reconnected with our friends at Friends of Feeney. And as soon as you all heard about it, you jumped right on board. You guys came, you set up a photo booth. You got a chance to welcome the group that was there, let them know about your mission. And I remember being so impressed with how well you articulate what your mission is. Like, you just, it flows and it's clearly so natural. And again, I think that's a perfect example of we can find ways to partner, right? And there's going to be opportunities I know that are going to happen as a result of the work we're doing in parallel with each other.
Yeah, well, I wanted to thank you for that opportunity, because I still see people and they're like, oh yeah, we remember you from the Blue Jean Mile.
Yeah.
And then we have a photo booth pic, so we took one as a group. Stefania's going to put it up here, but yeah, we had the.
That's right.
We had the little photo booth. Both logos are on there.
Yeah. We raised $15,000 that day, and the money went directly to us being able to do a season and a half at West Middle School in the Asylum Hill neighborhood of Hartford, and a lot of the donors from that came over and saw the program, and they're so impressed. So we're actually going to move that event this spring to Bushnell Park.
Nice.
We had thought we had to have a track, but no one's going to run a 406 mile, we don't think, so we're not worried about the unofficial record of. No, that's what we'll do, is because most people walk it. Probably, I think about 85% of the people did it last year, walk the mile, which is great. And then we have like 2 heats. We'll have like a I want to run it for time heat, and then we have like an elite heat. And but we think it'll be a good spot to do it this year, because we run free programming at Bushnell Park in the evenings. One of them is a run club, and so we're going to have all the kids in the run club participate in it. We'll hopefully you guys can come back and set up a booth. And
do you know the date?
We haven't secured it yet, because we got to sort it out with the city of Hartford plus the Bushnell Park Foundation, who have been wonderful partners of ours. But and we also want to look at things like legislative sessions, what's going on at UConn, like things like that, because we don't want to pick a date that is. We think the last Thursday in April, but which is the 24th, I believe. But we'll make sure.
Count us in.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Well,
great.
You said, that partnership and collaboration is powerful, and it goes a long way when people come together. So and thank you for being a good friend and inviting us. Thank you for everything. Yeah, you're doing great things. How do you feel for exercise helping mental health?
Oh my God, it's interesting, because I shared my own struggle with anxiety, and I grew up playing everything, and even into my young adult life, I was training for marathons, and I just before the time I was telling you about, when I did the CPR and I started to have my own panic, I had gotten a little bit injured. And so I went from exercising probably an hour and a half to 2 hours a day to maybe 3 or 4 times a week for 45 minutes or so, because I'd gotten some severe knee pain. I put on a few pounds. My schedule was just not what it was. And so I think what happened was I had spent my whole life having exercise manage my mental health. And then when I stopped exercising, I didn't know that. And so that's when all of a sudden I'd be having these episodes of, and sometimes it was sadness too. It was like, and I didn't know where it was coming from. And it's interesting, because as someone who went through the process, so SSRIs are the drugs that people get typically for depression or for anxiety. And they give the same drug for a reason. People know them as Lexapro or Zoloft. Those are sort of the more common names. Well, basically, the way it was described to me is that your brain is here, ideally, right? When you're anxious, you're up here. When you're depressed, you're down here. What the drug does is it takes the anxious and brings it down, and it takes the depressed and brings it up. But you know what exercise does? The exact same thing, right? And so, and for me to have learned that was super powerful with my recovery, because then I sort of knew, like, it was just brain chemistry that was messing with me. So when I had to do the CBT stuff, I could tell myself that's just your anxiety talking, that's just your sadness talking, right? So, and then I knew, that's why everybody says, like, it's putting the shoes on is the hardest part. Once you actually do the exercise, everyone's like, I mean, it was hard, but you're glad you did it in most cases. But I'll tell you, even as a counselor, when I first started in West Hartford, it would be the random 10th or 11th grader who was on medication for different things. And then 2008, which was the start of this, right? It started to creep down into freshman year, then middle school, and then even elementary school kids that are being put on medication because they're not moving as much. They're just not. They're not regulating their body with exercise. And look, I'm not sitting here to be be an expert. A lot of it is just done on my own personal experience, my own research, but exercise is the best medicine for mental health. And when I say exercise, a lot of people hear a lot of push-ups and like calisthenics. I mean play. Like I mean, because the other thing about it is that it's belongingness. Like when you play, you're with other people. You're making social connections, right? You're learning how to belong to something. You're learning empathy. You're learning social skills. Yeah. And if you're on your device, you're not.
How to be a good winner, how to be a good loser.
100%.
Yeah, social media and phones, man. That's a whole podcast for another day.
Yeah, no.
But exercise, I co-sign that. Personally, I find that, this Saturday I was feeling lethargic, down and out. Let's go for a run.
Yeah.
Let's get the dog, go for a run. Or, let's just do 10 squats, 10 push-ups. Get that blood flowing.
And it's hard because unless you sort of have experienced the positive outcome, if you're feeling lethargic, sometimes you just want to go deeper into the lethargy, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have to be able to help kids experience the power of that and be really intentional about helping them to recognize how good playing and moving makes them feel. That's why dancing is great.
Dancing.
Yeah.
Listen, you're talking to a dancing champ.
Believe me, I know you don't think I brought that up intentionally?
Thank you for that. We shared last podcast with whole videos out there on 123 if you want to see these award-winning dancing performance.
I'm very
Shout
envious.
out to Zuli Rivera, my co-partner from Juniper Homes. I meant to say Juniper, but
Carrie and I love to dance, and so
nice.
we in fact I purchased some ballroom dance stuff from Playhouse on Park's auction that have still been sitting there because when you get these auction items, you're like, oh God, this would be so fun. This would be cool. So you've now prompted me that I got to follow up with them. Yeah.
That motivated me to sign up with my wife too because it's like something to do with your loved one.
Yeah.
You're in touch. You're learning something new. You're vulnerable. Yeah. I loved it. I mean,
it's like built-in date night. Yeah.
Built-in date night, and it's like scheduled. You have to go.
Yeah.
You're gonna do it. You make time for it. But yeah, Nicole and I have done it once before at Arthur Murray. And we're going back.
Yeah, so. We've offered dance at a number of our programs because at the end of the day that's a sport to me too.
Okay, that's great.
So my two sisters run the largest Irish dance school in all of Washington D.C. area, Boyle School of Irish Dance. You can look it up.
Boyle.
And it was a little bit cultural, right? Growing up, Irish immigrants. The girls danced and the boys played sports, but I loved the dance. And in fact, I was decent at Irish step dancing until my brothers just made fun of me for being in a kilt. Like literally, that's how it was when we grew up. And I look back at it now, and I really wish I still had that as something that I did. But my sisters are great athletes. Like
nice.
Irish dance is tough, right?
Your calves are.
Oh my God! And
rock solid. And I like how their upper body.
Oh yeah.
Stays tight.
Yeah.
You know why the arms stay down? And their bike, because I guess they danced in bars and they were tight. It was a small area, so you couldn't wave your hands around or in pubs.
I think you're just you read that on the internet.
Abraham Lincoln told me it was on the internet. It's true. Speaking of which, Irish night at the town hall. Are you going to come?
I am. That's the
24th.
Yeah, it's coming up, right?
Do you already have a table?
I don't.
Oh, you want to sit with our table?
I would love to sit at your table.
All right,
yeah.
The Boyles and the Feeneys.
Told Staunton, yeah.
All right, perfect.
I was.
Your wife too?
I was Honoree 10 years ago. It was a long time, but it was really nice. My mom and dad came. My brother from Mexico surprised me. It was really cool. Yeah, I think it was around 2014 or so.
Where does the brother in Mexico rank of the 8?
He's the youngest middle child. Yeah,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
You threatened him to come, right? You beat him up?
No, Kerry surprised me. I didn't know anybody was coming. Yeah, and everybody showed up at Max's
cool.
Oyster Bar, and we walked over to Town Hall from there. Yeah.
Nice. All right, yeah, join us. We'll have
that's
a
awesome.
table for you.
That's this weekend, right?
It's the 25th.
2 weeks. All
so right. Ball for a Cure are the honorees this time.
Okay.
The Reynolds, Jamin, and a couple other people, Stanix. But yeah, I was an honoree once too, so that was awesome a couple years ago. Honored and proud of my Irish heritage as well.
You still got your shillelagh?
No, he didn't give me a shillelagh. I got a sash.
Yeah, okay.
Did you get a shillelagh?
I think
you did. I heard that.
Back in the day. Yeah.
I'm going to talk to John.
So I'm actually, during COVID, I became a member of the European Union. I got my Irish passport.
See?
So, yeah. And
that's been on my things to do list forever.
Yeah.
My grandfather was born in Waterford, Ireland.
Yeah, okay.
I have his death certificate, birth certificate, everything.
Yeah.
I just been
You just got to do it.
One of those things I've been putting it off. 10 years now.
To what extent I'll use it. I mean, we travel a fair bit, so if God forbid I got hurt, I think that would be the one good thing is I could get the health care when I'm over there. But it's just, it makes me feel proud to have it. Both my mom and dad were both born there, so
nice.
I'm first generation. Yeah,
that's the main reason I wanted, just for the pride and heritage.
Yeah, that's cool.
Very cool. Where was your family from?
So my dad's from County Donegal, which is in the northwest, and a couple counties below that is Leitrim, which is where my mom's from. But
How many times have you been to the motherland?
Probably 10. Both of our daughters went to school there for a semester. Siobhan went to University of Dublin in Dublin, and then Michaela went to University of Galway.
Oh, nice.
It was great study abroad stuff, and then
did they just
one semester? One semester.
Yeah.
And I still have a number of cousins that live there. In fact, my cousin still lives and works the farm where my dad was born and raised. So my mom was one of 13 and my dad's one of 11. I have 77 first cousins. Yeah.
My dad's one of 8. And my sister had a pen pal, which was a cousin when she was little. I don't know if they still continue to write, but yeah, I went there once with my wife before we were married. Flew into Dublin, did the horseshoe, flew out of Shannon.
Yeah.
Best time of my life. I can't wait to go back.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So yeah. All right, cool. 25th.
All right.
Any other upcoming events? Your Bushnell's kind of like your home base.
Well,
you got Winter Carnival coming up.
Yeah, we've got that, and so Winter Carnival is one we came up with last year, sort of a version of it just drives me crazy that I drive around town and there's nobody ever outside playing. I grew up in upstate New York and I loved playing football in the winter. You know what I mean? Just just tackle with my brothers or whatever, just going sledding, and we would play soccer. We'd play anything. I'd scrape the driveway and shoot hoops, and so really what we were trying to do is to help kids understand you're not going to die. Playing outside is actually good for you, right?
Yeah.
It builds your immune system, gets your heart rate going. So just for an hour, we just essentially do what we do in our before and after school program. We do and it was awesome last year. So Mayor Bronin's kid was in the program. He lived right across the street. We just basically we play team handball, we play touch football, we play a version of baseball. And last year it was golden because it snowed on the first day we did it. And a lot of times it's it's snow, we got to cancel. We're like, no, we're not canceling. Yeah. It was safe enough for people. It's a choice. We tell them basically, we're not anything to tell you not to or to tell you to. We're going to be there. If you can get there safely, then come on over. And a lot of kids walked. So, it's an outdoor program. We call it Winter Carnival because we want it to sound fun, but we also want people to know it's going to be outside. We got some funding from Dick's Sporting Goods. So if kids don't have gloves or hats, they just send us a discreet email, tell us what size, and we show up with gloves and hats for kids.
This is so cool, yeah.
So we, it's our park home base because we have just found it's a good spot for us to do very general things we do. We have a partnership with USA Fencing. We have a way to teach fencing at 2% of the cost of traditional fencing. We do that there once a week in the winter and in the fall and the spring. And then usually the foundation will come and open the carousel on the last night of our events and let kids have free carousel rides, which is cool too.
Can't beat it.
Yeah.
Winter Carnival.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. Well, a couple other upcoming events. Do you have any other upcoming events?
We have so much going on right now that when you say events, we had August 29th. You know what day that is? It's the 241st day of the calendar year.
Okay.
So we got it declared National Sports Sampling Day by the National Day Calendar. So we are looking to make that an annual event as our, how people got Giving Tuesday and you've got, Blue Jean Mile, but we want to make that day be our annual Giving Day, and because it is named in our honor. So we're going to be thinking about what are some things we can do leading up to that. We're really excited about this partnership with Fight for Children, which is a DC-based organization that sort of oversees all youth sports in Washington, D.C. We just partnered with Boston After School and Beyond, which is a similar cohort of outside of school time programming that partners with Boston Public Schools. We met today with Achievement First in Hartford. Hoffman Auto Group has committed a large amount of funds to help us start new programming in East Hartford and in Hartford. And one of them is a music and movement program. So we're looking to combine our Top Self Sports with a music sampling program at Achievement First in Hartford. So, yeah, when you ask what we got going on, it really is a lot. Yeah, no, it's great.
You got the 3-on-3 in Hartford, East Hartford.
No, that actually was one of the other recipients of the Catalyst grant. So that was a different nonprofit that they got a $5,000 grant. There was $69,000 available. We got a large chunk of that, and then it was based on what we asked for. So yeah.
Yeah, so big Irish night, January 25th. Wolfpack game with Friends of Feeney, February 28th. If you're available, come join us.
I think we are available, and Carrie and I have been talking about wanting to get to a Wolfpack game. Oh, we do have a grant that's out there right now through Liberty Bank that we're pretty confident about. You just never know, how many other people have asked for grants. So one of the things we're looking to do, we're going to use that money to support Grace Academy in Hartford, to bring our model and support their athletics. But we want to do a sports sampling day in May with Hartford Athletic. So Hartford Athletic has been a really good partner of ours, and I'm only thinking of it now because of the Wolfpack. You just brought them up.
Yeah.
And that it would be on site, but we would welcome kids from all of our programs. But it would kind of be hosted by Hartford Athletic and by Grace Academy. So
nice.
it'll be grant pending, but that'll be sometime in May.
Very cool. Then we have Parkville Market. We're going to have a presence there. We are the Be a Good Friend concert series sponsors. Every Saturday there's a band in there. We collaborated with the Greater Hartford Arts and got a grant. And then Travis Moody Blues, my good friend D-Lock, is going to be playing. So please join us February 22nd.
Okay.
And then our golf event, September 13th.
Yes.
Our 4th annual Friends of Feeney golf tournament at Tunxus. Do you golf?
I've been known to try to swing a club,
Okay.
but I'm not sure I did this year. But I don't slow anybody down, but I won't break any records. Yeah.
Deal. You're perfect. You're perfect person we need at our tournament.
All right.
Great.
Well, keep me in the loop on those dates, and maybe there's an opportunity for a joint fundraiser at some point where we can
love
raise
to
some
collab.
funds for each other's works together. So.
Well, I think you're doing great things. I consider you a good friend. 2 for 1. I've been a teacher for 21 years. What minute are we at, Stefania?
You're at 97.
We're at 97? Whoa.
57.
57.
It's like, wow, we've been talking for an hour and a half.
Hour. We're at an hour, so it's perfect time to drop an exclusive. 2 for 1. I'm taking my talents to South Beach.
Yeah.
It's the LeBron James. No, I don't know. You want to share what?
Well, yeah.
what's
Well, I
going
mean,
on?
I'm so excited about this. Like, I feel like we stepped in it a little bit. I know how popular you are as a teacher in town. How many people know you in town for the good work you do with Friends for Feeney, but also that you've done summer programming, quality summer programming at a great camp for many years. And so you and I had met almost a decade ago to talk about 241 for the first time. And at that point, I didn't really have anything for you, right? Because we were still relatively small and it was based on revenue we were bringing in. And so it just never happened. Now we're in a position where we know every summer we have so much work, and we are always looking for quality educators, quality teacher coaches. And so we're here to announce that Eric's going to be working at least 4 weeks for 241 this summer.
Let's go.
We're not quite ready to declare what his role will be because last year I would have had you be a utility player at some of our grant-funded programs. There was a lot of young teacher coaches, paraprofessionals, behavior techs who could use mentorship, who could use some guidance. We probably would have had you support in some of those programs. But we're committed to having you as many weeks as you're available. We have at least 8 weeks of programming that are going to happen this summer. It'll be a combination of parent pay camps. Here in West Hartford, we have 2 weeks at Kingswood Oxford. We have 2 weeks at the University of St. Joseph's. We're really excited about that. In August, first time ever, We have 2 weeks in Farmington at Farmington High School. We have 2 weeks up in Suffield. But last year we employed almost 250 people across our network. We got a giant grant from the State Department of Education to serve 750 kids in the correct system. We were in 3 schools there. We've always been in the New Britain schools for the past decade doing summer programming. If this summer's like any other summer, we're going to need 10 more of you if you can replicate. So,
Right.
but we're thrilled to have you on board and make the announcement of where you'll be and what you'll be doing when the time comes.
I'm honored. I'm excited. I'm motivated. So I'm really.
And your
looking forward
daughters
to
are
it.
welcome to work with us as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Bring the trouble along.
Yeah.
No, they're excited too.
Great.
So this is great.
Yeah.
No, I remember our meeting, Jay Renee,
Yes.
and you were like, I was ready to sit and talk and have coffee. You were like, I prefer walking meetings. And I was like, I like this guy. And we walked all the way down Park Road.
That's right. I forgot
Took
I
a
did
left
that. Yeah.
down what runs parallel to Park Road and went all the way around.
Boulevard.
Like
Yeah,
Boulevard.
yeah,
We
yeah.
almost did a full mile.
Yeah.
Talking and chatting and catching up. First time I ever met you, and I was like, that stood out. So if I ever meet with anyone, I'm doing walking meetings.
It's so funny
you
because my kids would make fun of me. You're like Mr. Physical Literacy doing walking meetings all the time. I'm
that
like,
stood
yeah,
out
yeah,
forever.
Yeah.
And so I remember that day, and so 10 years later, here we are.
Yeah.
I'm excited to join the team.
That's great.
Really looking forward to it. So
Thanks,
thank
man.
you very much.
Yeah, of course. Well, welcome
Yeah.
aboard. Yeah.
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 So yeah, we got the 2-for-1. Got the
Yeah, so we got all sorts of swag for you. The United Colors of 241,
I love it.
and I will say that I am a competitive guy, and I see way more "Be a Good Friend" magnets than I see 241 magnets these days. But I have each on my car, and
Nice.
I would expect nothing less of
Deal.
the Feeney vehicles.
let's do honorary switch.
All right, yes, all right, yeah, the trade. Thank
trade,
you.
that's
All
the
right,
stuff.
man. There we go. Be a good friend. Thank you. So let's get Be a Good Friend, Friends of Feeney, and 241 magnets on thousands more cars this year.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
No, your website has quite the swag. You have pillows, bottles, scarves, Travis Matthew polos. Come on, that's good stuff. Carhartt hats,
Yeah.
hats, hoodies, slides.
To be
fanny
honest, no
packs.
one uses that store. We gotta, it's
okay.
it's one of those sort of squad locker sort of things where you go on and they do the logos.
per
So
thing.
yeah, and
Gotcha.
we don't use
But
it
I
as a
like it.
fundraiser. Yeah, no, it's good stuff. But we want to try to, because people are like, they see it now and it's a noticeable brand. Like we travel or people are like, whoa, that's a cool shirt, or just they like the tagline, And so
2-for-1.
yeah, thanks.
Can't beat it. So being a teacher, 21 years, my favorite teacher of all time was Mrs. Jarrell, my 5th grade teacher. Beside my mom, most important person in my life. She kind of motivated me at the right time. My parents were going through a divorce. Do you have a favorite teacher?
I do, and in fact, I've reconnected with him. It used to always be one of those things where I would have a kid that would come back, or they'd find me on social media, and they'd say something like, you might not remember saying this, but you said something to me in the hallway or in your office, and that changed my life. And I thought, I would never know that unless the kid had the gumption, and then I started to think, like, how powerful we are as educators. So I reached back out to, I call him Dr. Kissick, Coach Kissick. He's not a doctor, and he wasn't even my coach, but he was a coach. He was my English teacher and theology teacher. And what was kind of cool was that I didn't know if I was in English class or if I was in theology class. So he was a Vietnam vet, and he just had a way. He was sort of like the guy from Robin Williams and
Stand on the Desk.
yeah. Why am I? Oh, Captain, my Captain. How am I forgetting the name of this? Dead Poets
Yes,
Society. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan.
Which
Yeah.
I literally used to watch every year to start my teaching career. So he just had that sort of way of, there were no notes, and he would talk about love. He would talk about, it was an all boys school, right? And talk about love in a way that was philosophical. And so I've since reconnected with him, and we get together on a fairly regular basis. He lives up in Saratoga, New York, which is the town my brother lives in. And he kept all of our yearbooks. He kept news clippings of me, and he'll just randomly send me a note once in a while. just saying how proud he is of me and 241 and what we do, and he's just that guy. He's a motivator, and
That's
just
awesome,
and Carrie's dad was a lot like that. Like there's so many people that showed for Carrie's dad's funeral. So Carrie's dad was not my teacher, but he was a teacher, and he had a huge impact on my life too. Yeah. So Coach Kissick and Coach Schloter.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And our newest question, based on our podcast last episode with Stefania, 123, who's your favorite superhero or what's your favorite superpower?
Ooh, I got to go with Superman and flying. Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
I think if when I was little, like the idea of being able to fly would be like, ooh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So.
Have we touched on it? Is there anything that I've missed that you want to share or talk about? Any questions for me? Or anything that I felt that I missed?
Well, you had asked about an experience with a friend, and when we were talking about doing this, and so I did want to share with you my favorite moment. Just because I had thought about it a lot, and like I have an incredibly good relationship with my wife, and so we work together. We founded this together. We love to travel together. Our girls, I think it's literally a challenge for them because we have such a high crossbar with relationships that they sometimes will say, like, how are we going to find somebody who gets along as well as the two of you do? And that's not to say that we haven't had our stuff, but I will say when I had a moment when we were in Nairobi, Kenya, and we had done a training the day before. We were on this literally just Dust Bowl dirt soccer field with 115 kids from Nairobi, all wearing 241 shirts in different stations, and we made eye contact, and we had this look to each other like, how did we get here? You know what I mean? And so to be with my best friend in a setting like that, knowing we were impacting the globe, was really powerful. And so when you asked that question, when you reached out to me, I wanted to share that story.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Get me in my feels, man. That was good. That was pretty good. No, yeah, it's good to have a partner, life partner, and that's an amazing relationship.
Yeah,
So
31 years.
congratulations
Yeah,
on
thanks.
that too.
Yeah.
I'm in my 19th year.
All right, keep them coming.
Yep, I love it. And you have 3 girls, so you're a girl dad.
I am a girl dad. In fact, I have a girl dad hat. Yeah,
Yep.
and 2 of them are teaching and coaching in Austin, Texas. And the oldest one, who tried out for the local travel soccer team, my Irish Catholic daughter, works for the National Council of Jewish Women. She does faith-based organizing around social justice issues for a global organization. And it's obviously, with everything going on in the globe, it's challenging work, but she does good work. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, proud dad too. Good job. You got
Thanks.
kids.
Thanks, man.
So any closing remarks, recommendations? Are you listening to any podcasts, TV shows, books?
Well, we're hoping actually to maybe start our own podcast. I
Okay.
think we're going to call it the Putting Play Back into Sports podcast. It's a mouthful and probably too long for SEO, but we'll figure it out. So I guess maybe that would be a question I have for you is
Okay.
why did you start doing a podcast, and what's the value add been for you in doing
it's
it?
great.
Yeah.
I want to thank Dave from Direct Line Media. None of this would have been possible. He invited me into his studio to do a Behind the Brand. I talked about friends of Feeney and being a teacher, and it all inspired me to do so. And then on the way out, I said, "Hey, can I ask the questions?" And he took it upon himself, and he's opened it up and volunteered all his time. He's an amazing person. Thank you, Dave. I know he's going to listen to this in fast motion, but he's going to listen to this. So thank you. Direct Line Media is amazing. They're just a great group. Stefania's all right too. Check out our last podcast, episode 123. I'm kidding. It was great. No, it helps me. Like you said, our phones are away. We're talking one-on-one.
Yeah.
Bringing back that social piece. You're doing great things. I'm learning something new. I love learning something new. I'm an audio learner.
Yeah.
I prefer to listen than read, or, so just I'm talking with over 120 people. The mayor, the police chief, Kenny Mayne,
Love it.
people in sports, the Secretary of Education. You can't beat it. Medal of Honor recipient. You name it. It was just like such diverse group. All doing great things in
and
their
little
own
old
way.
me. That's
and
very
then Steve Boyle.
That's very cool. No, but I'm sure it
So I think your
builds.
podcast would be great too, because you have an angle that you could. Your first guest should be Steve Nash, because he plays soccer and basketball.
Yeah.
Or this Travis Hunter guy. Well, he's going both ways in one sport. But I'm just saying, there's so many people.
Yeah.
Manu Ginobili did both sports. Deion Sanders. There's so many. Bo Jackson. All these people out there.
Yeah.
Then you could have that going for you. So.
No, exactly. And I think also there's the anti-specialization piece, but then there's also the equity piece, the access piece, like educators, like, you talked to the Secretary of Education. I heard him speak not long after that, and his whole thing was around equity, right? And getting kids the opportunity. Like, it's one thing to be able to become a college football player, professional athlete, but it's another thing to know how to catch or throw or know the rules to be able to watch those games so you can engage in society. So, I think our angles would be, we'd want to walk both of the worlds we walk in. Obviously, getting big names on it like Eric Feeney and stuff like that.
I'll be your first guest.
Yeah, right. There
I caught a 2-point conversion freshman year. My friend D-Lock threw it to me. We still joke about it. It's the highlight of my career.
Yeah, and then you did a baseball swing to celebrate. Yeah, there you go. Good.
I won tallest runner at Toad's Place for the Shamrock and Run.
Yeah.
I did run a marathon once, 4 hours and 45 minutes.
God bless you. Yeah, I only ran them faster because I wanted to get it over with.
What'd you do?
I was just about to be under 3 hours when the whole left side of my body fell asleep. I was in 50th place of the Hartford Marathon when, at the 24.5 mile mark, the left side, I crossed with my shoes in my hands at 3 minutes and 21 seconds. So I never ran another one. Yeah.
Oh boy.
I only needed to break 3:10, and I was just having a great run. And it was hot, and I think, I had an MRI done because they didn't know what happened. They thought I might have stroked, and they just said it was probably a dehydration response or some compression on the back or something like that. So I was literally weeping when I did it. Yeah, I was probably a better runner than I was a basketball player, but and I miss it, man. I really miss it. Yeah.
Man, I did. I got in my feels when I crossed too, because
Yeah.
I felt like you really accomplished something.
Oh my God, yeah.
And my family was there to meet
Yeah,
me, and I
yeah.
saw them, and I just
Yeah.
oof, I
yeah,
did it.
Yeah.
27 miles, 26 point something is a long time.
It's a big deal. And why you might say, lots of people do marathons. No, the majority of the people in this world will never even consider doing one. It's a big deal. Yeah,
So I'm
that's
glad
cool.
I did it,
Yeah, good for you.
and I'm still trying to play hoop. So we got to hoop someday.
Yeah, I still play in the old man Sunday morning game, and I have some great. It's just and that I miss that during COVID so much. And again, I think it's one of the things that motivates me is that I find so much joy and value in playing sports, and even now as an adult. But I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't learn those things as a kid. And when I think about how many kids out there, Eric, that don't have the opportunity to play, or their sport experience is so negative because it's a job at a young age, I just worry about, will kids be playing when they're older, you know? And you do get the folks that maybe took 20, 30 years off and they discover pickleball or whatever, but that's a long gap. Like, I never really stopped. And, you're younger than I am. It appears you haven't stopped either, right?
Yeah, I can't stop. I'm going to continue, like you said, that the relationships I'm building at the JCC, wonderful network of people. Main reason we moved near Wolcott Park was the park.
Yeah.
So.
I go down and I jump into some of those pickup games on that court still.
Really?
Yeah,
Nice.
I have a real funny, quick last story. So one time I'm like, I was over at Eisenhower. My daughters were playing soccer, and I'm like, I don't want to watch another soccer game. So there's basketball courts right there, and I saw some kids playing. So I get up and I go across to the park. I say, Karen, I'm going to go try to get in a game over there. And I'm playing pretty well, like to a point where I'm feeling pretty good. So some other kids show up, and they had come in from Hartford, and they were younger. And all of a sudden, one of the guys that I had been scoring against goes, I got OG. And I was devastated. So I go home that night, and I'm like, I was killing this kid. And he calls me OG. So I'm telling my girls this story. I'm like, I know I'm old, but does he have to call me the old guy? They're like, Dad, he wasn't calling you the old guy. You were OG. You're the original gangster. And I'm like, that was the biggest compliment he could have given you. And I'm like, oh, I feel so bad because I was so mad at him for calling me OG.
Oh, I love it. The OG.
Yeah.
The original gangster. That's an ultimate compliment.
Oh, I do, but I didn't know. So, yeah.
Now you know.
Yeah.
Well, I had such a blast talking with you. I'm so excited our future collaborations. I'm looking forward to this summer. I learned so much about you in the program. 2 for 1's doing great things. 5 countries. I mean, keep it up.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
I'm proud to know you, and I'm really looking forward to it. We usually end with be a good friend, but we're going to say 2 things today. We're going to say life's too short for one sport.
Just
then
one
we'll
sport,
say,
yeah.
Oh, excuse me. I jacked that up.
That's right. Life's too short for just one sport.
Just one sport.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then we'll say be a good friend. So,
All right.
on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Life's too short for just one sport. Be a good friend.